We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Gaza doctors say Al-Quds hospital evacuation impossible after Israeli warning. Largest delivery of aid enter Gaza on Sunday. UN Security Council to hold emergency meeting on UAE's request to seek pause to Gaza fighting. And in the ICC World Cup 2023, Afghanistan faces Sri Lanka today. And on to details of the top story. Israeli troops backed by tanks pressed into the northern Gaza with a ground assault. The airstrikes hit areas near Gaza City's Shifa and Al-Quds hospital. The Palestinian Red Crescent in Gaza had earlier said that Israel has told them to evacuate Al-Quds hospital. Responding to which the doctors there said the hospital evacuation is impossible. They added that there are patients in intensive care units and babies in incubators, and moving them is impossible. Around 14,000 civilians are also understood to be sheltering in the hospital and its grounds. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency meeting today to discuss the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The meeting is being convened on the request of UAE. The UN Security Council earlier failed in its attempts to stop the war in Gaza, as its members were unable to approve either the United States resolution calling for humanitarian pauses or Russia's calling for an immediate ceasefire. And as Israeli defense forces have entered Gaza and are carrying out the second phase of the on-ground operations against Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with U.S. President Joe Biden on Sunday. Though Netanyahu's office didn't provide much detail on the conversation, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Sunday in a TV interview said that the U.S. believes Israel should take every means possible to distinguish between Palestinian civilians and Hamas militants in its military operation in Gaza.
War, of course, is highly unpredictable, so it's difficult to predict how it will play out. What I will say this, Israel was attacked in a brutal, vicious terrorist attack. They are taking steps to go after the terrorists who struck them. They have been doing so from the air. They're now doing so on the ground. And Hamas, this brutal terrorist organization that conducted the attack, is hiding behind the civilian population, which puts an added burden on Israel to differentiate between the terrorists and innocent civilians. But it doesn't lessen their responsibility under international humanitarian law and the laws of war to do all in their power to protect the civilian population. And that's equally true moving in on the ground as it is taking strikes from the air.
Meanwhile, Israel has vowed that the Israeli military will pursue Hamas's Gaza leader Yahya Sinwar until it reaches him. IDF spokesman Hagari in a briefing also explained that the ground operation in Gaza has intensified.
The ground operation in Gaza Strip continues and intensifies. Land, air and sea forces operated in Gaza today and eliminated many terrorists. We will pursue Yahya Sinwar. We will pursue him until we reach him.
And as offensive intensifies in Gaza, the Israeli military repeated its call to Gazan people to leave the northern region immediately. Military chief spokesperson in a televised briefing on Sunday said that its calls on Palestinians in the Gaza Strip to evacuate southward was now urgent.
Over the last 2 weeks, we have been calling on residents of the northern Gaza Strip and Gaza City to relocate southwards temporarily. Relocating southward is for their personal safety. We are today emphasizing that this is an urgent call.
Well, also, the Red Crescent and doctors in Gaza said they have received warnings from Israeli military to evacuate the Al-Quds hospital in the Gaza immediately. However, the staff of the hospital have said that moving the hundreds of patients currently being treated there would not be possible, as some are seriously ill.
We don't don't have the means to evacuate Al-Quds hospital. We have over 400 patients who are inside the hospital. Many of them are in the intensive care unit. Evacuating them means killing them. That's why we refuse the evacuation order. We call on the international community to intervene immediately to stop a humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding.
And as Israel expanded its offensive in the Gaza Strip, thousands of people broke into 8 warehouses in Gaza to loot flour and basic hygiene products. United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency director said the looting marks the growing frustration among the people.
This is an indication that people in Gaza have reached a breaking point. The levels of desperation, their frustration, their fear, their concern. They have been living under tight siege for more than 3 weeks. Bombardments continue. They have lost so much. They are grieving themselves. They have become displaced. So the levels of frustration and despair are really very high, and people are hitting rock bottom when it comes to their patience, their ability to take more.
Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has reiterated his call for immediate release of hostages in Gaza and a humanitarian ceasefire.
The world is witnessing a humanitarian catastrophe taking place before our eyes. More than 2 million people with nowhere safe to go are being denied the essentials for life: food, water, shelter, and medical care, while being subjected to relentless bombardments. I urge all those with responsibility to step back from the brink. And I reiterate my appeal for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, the unconditional release of all hostages, and the delivery of a sustained humanitarian relief at a scale that meets the needs of the people of Gaza. We must join forces to end this nightmare for the people of Gaza, Israel, and all those affected around the world, including here in Nepal.
And even as the death toll in Gaza has crossed 8,000 and over 21,000 people injured in Israel's bombardment on the Gaza Strip, the situation in West Bank also remains tense, with 111 people dead and over 2,000 injured in Israeli strikes. Our correspondent Amritpal Singh takes stock of the public anger on the streets of Ramallah in Palestine.
While most of the casualties are happening in the Gaza Strip, with Israel stepping up its military campaign, but Israel is also hitting targets in West Bank. I'm right now standing inside Palestine and West Bank, and if I can ask my camera person to show you the scenes here, the people are protesting after a target was hit inside West Bank. So far, in various strikes within West Bank, over 110 people have been killed and many more arrested. In hundreds, about 700 people arrested. Arrests are being made every day, and over 2,000 people have been injured. So the people here ask that what is the logic of arresting or hitting targets inside West Bank? Though Israel says that Hamas has its supporters in West Bank and they are targeting them. But the question being asked in these protests is that why is Israel hitting them when Israel claims it is not hitting civilians. Civilians are merely collateral damage, and it is hitting Hamas terrorist bases. With cameraman SP Dubey, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in West Bank, Palestine.
Well, moving on, Russia-Ukraine conflict, where both sides pressed on with their military operations on Sunday. They continue to strike each other's military targets, including drones, command posts and electronic warfare systems. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that its forces have repelled multiple attacks by the Ukrainian army and shot down multiple Ukrainian drones. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces continued their offensive operations and launched multiple airstrikes on Russian military personnel and hit Russian command post and other targets. Also, the US-South Korea are holding large-scale joint drills involving stealth planes to boost their joint capabilities this week. It comes amid growing concern about North Korean threats to stability in the region. DD India correspondent Patrick Falk gives us these details.
Well, the vigilant defense exercises will last until Friday, and they're described as mega drills involving 130 aircraft from both countries, including South Korean F-35A fighter jets, as well as American F-18 fighters that are normally based in Japan. And the drills are designed to enhance combined military capabilities and come amidst North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. They also come following a week of joint combat training between the US and South Korea at the Korea Combat Training Center in an area that appeared to simulate fighting in Pyongyang. And this involved high-tech weapon systems, including drones carrying weapons, as well as unmanned vehicles, and are part of efforts by both countries to modernize combat capabilities. It's also significant because it comes amid heightened tensions between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea.
And moving on, Bangladesh's main opposition leader and over 100 other top party members have been charged with the murder of a policeman killed in mass demonstrations ahead of upcoming elections. Among the arrested are the senior members of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party leadership who potentially face the death penalty if they are found guilty. Police said Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir had been detained for interrogation for Saturday's violence in which a police officer and a protester were killed, and at least 26 police ambulances were torched or damaged. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced on Sunday that his country is willing to invest in gas and critical minerals in Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer. This marks Scholz's third visit to the region in 2 years, reflecting the increasing importance of the energy-rich region in which Berlin has traditionally had little involvement. At a joint briefing with Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, Scholz said that there is a willingness to invest, especially in critical minerals.
Another important element of our cooperation is point 3, our energy partnership. This is about gas, but also about hydrogen, as the gas of the future clean and climate neutral. We already operate a hydrogen office here and want to make progress overall in the expansion of renewable energies.
And now let's take a look at stories around the world. Liberal politician Carlos Ghosn won the mayoral elections in Colombia's capital, Bogota, dealing a defeat to President Gustavo Petro's leftist coalition in votes. While Gustavo Bolívar, a staunch ally of the president who placed third, described the result as a punishment vote for the government. Sunday's outcome is expected to influence the 2026 presidential election. The death toll in Kazakhstan's coal mine fire accident rose to 45 on Sunday. The mine owned by ArcelorMittal supposedly caught fire due to methane blast. A prayer service was held for the victims of main shooting in the city of Lewiston. Leaders of various faiths spoke at the Basilica of Saints Peter and Paul. The shooting incident of last week had killed 18 people and left 13 more injured in the aftermath. The community also held a candlelight vigil for the victims earlier on Sunday. While fans across the globe are still trying to come to terms with the sudden death of popular sitcom Friends actor Matthew Perry, well-wishers laid flowers and other tributes on Sunday at the actor's Los Angeles home. The Friends star died at his home in an apparent drowning this weekend. Perry was born in Massachusetts and largely raised in Canada after his parents divorced. He played Chandler Binge for 10 seasons on Friends. As per the police report, Perry was found dead in a hot tub at his Los Angeles home Saturday afternoon. While fans fondly remember him as Chandler from Friends, they also liked Perry, the person, in real life. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Kochi Convention Centre blast claimed 3 lives. A chief minister chairs all-party meet. Horrific train collision in India's Andhra Pradesh claims at least 13 lives. India's EAM S. Jaishankar meets families of detained Navy men who were sentenced to death by Qatar. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, a series of blasts at a prayer meeting in the southern Indian state of Kerala's Kalamassery has killed at least 3 people and left several critically injured. In response to the tragedy, Kerala's Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan has declared the formation of a special 20-member team to conduct a thorough investigation. Meanwhile, an all-party meet chaired by Kerala Chief Minister is underway at the CM's conference hall in the Secretariat.
Night also, people were coming to the casualty and all. So around 60 people sought treatment from different hospitals. Some of them were under observation. Some of them had very superficial minor burns. And so they, around 60 people who were injured were brought to the different hospitals, casualties, and one was brought dead. The priority of the government at present is to save the lives. So we are giving maximum support, maximum possible. We have burns unit here, we have burns unit at our different hospitals, and also maximum best possible treatment is being given to the patient.
Meanwhile, Indian Union Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar met the victims of the bomb blast and prayed for the speedy recovery of the injured.
I have come here today on behalf of all my colleagues in government to first of all visit with the patients and the victims of this bomb blast, to meet with them and see how they are doing, what their progress is, to meet with the hospital staff, and of course to also visit the site where this bomb blast happened. It is tragic that 3 lives were lost and many were injured.
And the death toll in the India's Andhra train collision reached 13 as rescue operations continue in Vizianagaram district. 2 NDRF teams also joined the search and rescue operation with the Railways, RPF, local police. According to the officials, it was a rare-end collision between the Visakhapatnam-Palasa passenger train and the Visakhapatnam-Ragada passenger train. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Sunday condoled the loss of lives in the train accident and announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees from the PM's National Relief Fund for the next of kin of each deceased and 50,000 for the injured in the Andhra Pradesh train accident. Meanwhile, Union Railways Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw also monitored the situation from War Room in Delhi, where he assessed the aftermath of the train collision in Andhra Pradesh. The minister earlier said that all injured people have been shifted to different hospitals for treatment and announced a compensation of 10 lakh each for families of the dead. Moving on, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met this morning with the families of the 8 Indians detained in Qatar, stressed that government attaches the highest importance to the case and fully share the concerns and pain of the families, underlined that government will continue to make all efforts to secure their release, will coordinate closely with the families in that regard. And for more on this, we have DV Vinod with us. Well, Vinod, EM S. Jaishankar met the families of the 8 former Indian Navy personnel. And as we know that India called the ruling deeply shocking and said it would explore all legal options in the case. Any breakthrough expected?
See, Qatar has not made the charges public yet, but there have been reports, especially from the UK Financial Times, which says that they have been accused of espionage or spying for Israel. We should also see the profile of these people who have been indicted in Qatar. All of them are ex-Navy officials, senior officials, except one. And Commander Tiwari was the commander of the Eastern Naval Fleet and he's worked in INS Magar. And he is a naval veteran having extensive experience and moreover, he's a Pravasi Bharatiya Samman awardee of 2019. So why would someone who is of such high stature, who is an ex-Navy professional, will do a charge on spying, that too for a foreign country? So these questions still needs to be answered. At this moment, we do not have much information on what has really transpired in Qatar and what are the charges they are facing. We do not have much information, and Qatar's procedures has not been very transparent. But sources from Qatar says that they have been working in a private capacity at Doordarshan Global, but the CEO of the company has not been indicted. If you see past cases, in 2016, if you remember, 23 internationals were given pardon during the month of Ramadan by the Emir. Emir of Qatar is having the highest authority. He can do pardon for even for prisoners who have been punished for death. So yes, we can hope that the National Day of Qatar is on December 18th. So during that time, we can have a hope that if the Court of Cassation in Qatar won't give any respite to these Indian naval officers who have been under prison, we can expect that a respite will come from the Emir either on the National Day or on the coming Ramadan.
Right, Vinod.
So this is what.
Right, Vinod, as you're saying, Qatar is right now a main player in the global geopolitics. As you said, a soft step can be taken towards India. Is it possible?
It's possible. See, at this juncture, we do not see that 8 Indian ex-naval officers will be given death sentence by the Qatar. So Qatar's judiciary, we are not sure how independent they are, how transparent they are. But India and Qatar are having very cordial relations. Qatar is a friendly country, and we really need not see a possibility that they will really be executed. We can see what happened in 2016 when 23 Indian prisoners were freed by Qatar by a Emir pardon. So even in the geopolitical context, even when the equations does not match, we need not be 100% be worried that they might be executed. So let's hope for the best on the coming December or the Qatar National Day or on the Ramadan. We can expect a pardon from the Emir of Qatar.
Right, Vinod, thank you so much for joining us from there. And moving on, weeks after devastating flash floods in India's Sikkim, the Teesta Stage 6 Dam barrage deck opened on Monday. The temporary bridge connecting East Sikkim with South Sikkim will cater all the LMV movement from Gangtok to Namche. A permanent bridge would be constructed parallel to this barrage deck. However, as per state officials, a permanent bridge will be operational in 4 months.
As you all know, this entire Temi Namping and Adreskam area were disconnected during the flash floods which occurred on the 4th of So this is the temporary bridge on top of the barrage deck of Teesta Stage 6 project. So earlier the concrete slab was laid sometime in the beginning of October, but it takes sufficient time for the concrete to set. That's the reason why from today we'll be starting the traffic movement. So this barrage deck can cater to all the LMB movement, which will go from Gangtok district to Namche district. And we have regulated the traffic movement since most of the dam related works will also have to go on throughout the day. So we have regulated the traffic movement. And I would also like to inform that a permanent bridge, a Bailey bridge, will be constructed and parallel to this barrage deck. That will be operational in about 4 months' time.
Well, Indian and Malaysian Army have initiated exercise Hari Maur Shakti 2023, a joint bilateral training exercise in Umroi Cantonment, India. A woman soldier of the Indian Army is seen performing slithering operation from a helicopter. Indian Army troops and Malaysian Army are also enhancing the jointness by day-night patrolling and beating the rigors of dense jungle terrain. Exercise Hari Maur Shakti is aimed to enhance the level of defense cooperation between Indian Army and the Malaysian Army, which will also foster the bilateral relations between the two nations. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India and Kazakhstan's joint military exercise Kazin begins today. The Indian Army and Indian Army Force contingent comprising 120 personnel are taking part in the 7th edition of joint military exercise. The 13-day-long exercise will be conducted at Kazakhstan. Ahead of the winters and festival of Diwali in India, the overall air quality index in New Delhi stands at 322, making it in the very poor category. However, the overall air quality in Mumbai is in the moderate category with the AQI at 128. The Indian President's House, Rashtrapati Bhavan, North and South Block lit up in red as part of the Go Red campaign for dyslexia awareness. Along with that, the Indian Parliament and India Gate were also lit in red. The move has been made in honor of International Dyslexia Awareness Month, celebrated in October. The three-day Northeast India Festival concluded in Vietnam with resounding success on Sunday. The festival aimed at strengthening ties between Vietnam and India. The first 2 days of the festival witnessed discussions on education exchange, trade and business initiatives, flight connectivity and tourism collaborations. The grand finale was a vibrant celebration of cultural diversity. The event showcased a kaleidoscope of Northeastern dance forms. The atmosphere was further enlivened by electrifying performances by renowned bands from Northeast India and Vietnam. The festival also featured the Incredible India exhibition, showcasing the diverse destinations of India. And in sports, Game 30 of the ongoing ODI World Cup 2023 will feature a clash between Afghanistan and Sri Lanka today. Both sides will be coming into the clash on the back of brilliant wins in their previous games. Sri Lanka took on defending champion England in their previous game. Both sides took on each other in Game 25 of the tournament, and Sri Lanka registered a win by 8 wickets. On the other hand, Afghanistan faced off against Pakistan in their previous game, where they registered an 8-wicket win. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Vipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.